Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe, and in today's video we will be taking a look at the game Jutland, 2nd edition. This is from Avalanche Press and is designed by Mike Benninghoff, PhD. So let's take a look. Now this is the 2nd edition, as I said, and of late Avalanche Press has basically gone away or moved away from boxed games and is sending everything pretty much now in bag format or book format as they call it. So we have a baggie here. So this is not just going to be Jutland 2nd edition, but it's also going to be the expansions for it that have been released thus far. And as this is basically a core game for the Great War at Sea series, there will be future expansions that have not yet been released that will expand on this one and move into other theaters of the war. So let's flip this over. And underneath this, I have the expansions, as I said. So we will be taking a look at that in a moment. Here on the back, you can see some of the examples of the long counters, and we'll see those in a moment, just from various nations here, of course. A little snippet of the operational map. Again, we'll see that in a moment. Time. It's a 2-player game. You can solo it a little bit. There is a kind of solitaire methodology that I will use when I do a gameplay example. So you will get to see that, not in this video, but in one not too far down the road. It's 32 miles per sea zone on the operational map. The tactical map is a lot more zoomed in, which is discussed right here. Then we have the 134 by 22 inch operational map. That's the big one. And the 23 by 23 tactical map. That's the smaller one, as I mentioned. Our rulebook is 40 pages long, and there are 22 scenarios here in the base game. Difficulty level is 2 stars. That's probably fair. This isn't an overly complex game. It's not dead simple, but it's really not that bad. It does say fair for solitaire play. That's probably also accurate. The game will really shine as a 2-player game. It's particularly on the operational map, which is where you're kind of enacting that cat and mouse chase around the oceans in this, First World War era, when you didn't have radar, you didn't have advanced searching capabilities via aircraft and so on and so forth. So we do have the 2nd edition rules, and just a brief description here about on the last day of May 1916, the British Grand Fleet met the German High Seas Fleet off the coast of Denmark in what would be the largest battle ever fought between dreadnought battleships. The Battle of Jutland is the most studied naval battle in history, and for good reason. The mighty dreadnought fleets built by Britain and Germany in the years before the war met only once in battle. Either Admiral John Jellicoe or Reinhard Scheer had the opportunity to lose the war in a single afternoon. Great War at Sea Jutland 2nd edition is based on this battle, planning that led up to it, and its aftermath. It is the ultimate game of dreadnought operations. There's actually, as you can see here, 910 playing pieces in here, and the 22 scenarios that we also see right here with the rules. So also along with this, we have our 2 expansions, as I mentioned. So this is the North Sea 1914. Obviously, this would be earlier than this. And so this mainly, and we'll go into what these are, but this is obviously something as of an expansion. Then we have Doge Bank 1915, 2nd edition for this as well. And again, we will look at this separately from the Jutland game here in a moment. And then we have the Golden Journal, number 46, Iron Dogs, which if we flip this over, this one is the story of the battle cruisers that fought the Battle of Doge Bank in January 1915. And you get a dozen huge battle cruiser pieces to use in Great War at Sea, Jutland, and the stories of these famous ships. So we'll be taking a look at this as well. But first we're going to go and take a look inside the bag here at what the components are for our Jutland game. Okay, the bag has been removed, so we have our book here. Now this will have our scenarios in it, I believe. So yes, you can see that there are special rules. This is kind of true for both the Great War at Sea, the Second World War at Sea, as well as Panzer Grenadier and infantry attacks, basically all your kind of flagship Avalanche Press series. I've never played Soldier Emperor, so I'm not sure, but that also doesn't have as many expansions and stuff as this kind of thing does. So you do have basically some things for German gunnery, British speed, British gunnery, German speed, American methods, the Danish archipelago, European coastlines, etc. Then you have, kind of an introduction for planning the battle. And then you have, obviously, operational scenarios. And you will also have battle scenarios. And you can look at the number of ships involved here, both on the German side and the British side. And you can see a ton of battleships here on both sides. A bunch of battle cruisers. There's even a carrier on the British side, it looks like. And here's a battle scenario. So the battle scenarios only use the tactical map, while your operational scenarios will use the full operational map. And so as it said, there were 22 scenarios. So as there are 14 battle, there must be, 8 operational scenarios and 14 battle scenarios. So these are the seaplane carriers that are included in the game. Obviously, this was very much the dawn of both aviation in general and naval aviation. You have fleet composition, one for each side. So basically what you can do when you have your task forces out on the operational map, and you can see a sliver of it here at the top, you'll put the actual ships that are in those in here, and then you can just put a marker, say number 5, and it'll be out here somewhere, so that it's easier than trying to put the bigger, especially the long pieces, because they're fairly large, will not fit in these tiny little boxes. So that we will now take a look at our operational map. So let me move this other stuff out of the way. So here we have the operational map. Now this is not the entirety of the map. It does expand further to the left and to the bottom. But basically, this area here is your core area where the actual battle took place, right in this general vicinity. So obviously that's going to be where a lot of your stuff might happen, right? So there are keys to all of the various ports, like this green anchor is a Swedish minor port. You have a Swedish major port over here. And here's Stockholm up here. You have Norwegian ports as well, of course. Danish ports, German ports, some Dutch down here. And then, of course, we've got the British Isles over here with British ports. And there are also Russian ports on this side. Because even though I don't believe, as far as I know, I haven't looked at this yet, to be honest, so I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know how many Russian units would be in this game. We'll find out here as soon as we look at the components in terms of counters. There are also some tables here at the bottom. So you have a little key to what's on the counters in terms of your gunnery, or your speed rather, the gunnery for your 3 levels of guns. There is primary, secondary, and tertiary guns. You have torpedoes for ships that carried them, and the name of the ship, of course, as well. And obviously you have the flag and the ship number. Then you have mine damage table, minefield dice, a search table, operational to tactical map, air search table, merchant location table. And then on the other corner, up here, you can see you've got the legend for the various ports of the various belligerent nations that were involved in this. Okay, back to what else is in here. We have the hit records, which are really in Second World War at Sea. I think they're called ship data sheets. So it's basically the same thing. If we open it up here, and you would photocopy these for gameplay because you will be marking them. So here you have the BB-01 Dreadnought, right? HMS Dreadnought. That's its number of primary guns. It has no secondary. It has 2 tertiary torpedoes, its movement factor. And then you have hull and fuel. So you'll expend fuel, obviously, as you move. And then when you're in battle, you'll take hull damage and possibly gun damage as well, while obviously you'll be rolling to inflict damage. And so ultimately, this will you mark them off as they are destroyed or put out of action, or you take hull damage, or you expend fuel. And then ultimately, there will be obviously repercussions for that. So in this book, we have tons, and I mean tons of books, of ships rather. You have British ships going back to page, what, 18 or so? 17 pages of British, and then the Germans have back to, well, we have Australians back here on either side for transports and so on. German multiple ship counters. These are S-boats and destroyers, or I saw destroyers. Here you have some more MS type ships, which are minesweepers. So you've got, 12 pages of German ships. So again, you will print those or copy those off, print them out, scan them and print them, and then you would be able to obviously mark them up. So here we have our counter sheets. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're kind of out of order, but that's okay. We have 5 counter sheets here. So we'll start with counter sheet number 1. These would be British ships. So here, if we just bring this in so you can see it a little better, here's the BB-01 Dreadnought we were just looking at, as you can see right here. So you can see it has 7. Again, its speed is 1, so that's its movement rating basically. Then it's got a primary gun of 7 primary guns, no secondary, 2 tertiaries. It does have torpedoes capability, and there is the name of the ship. And you can see there's a whole lot of these guys. All right, so, and they are double-sided, and this would be kind of the mysterious side if you were playing 2-player, where you can tell by the silhouette that it's a big ship, but you don't know exactly what it is. So that's counter sheet 1. Counter sheet 2, we have more large ships. And again, in this game, as is the case in Second World War at Sea, you have up from cruisers up, basically, you get these long pieces, and then for the destroyers and so forth, you get these smaller ones. So here's a destroyer, for example, right here, the Admiralty. It's DD-37, and you can see how it's a multi-ship counter. It's a small counter. And then down here we have aircraft. So yes, there are aircraft in the game. And now we have on counter sheet 3, we have some German ships. So here is their BB-01, the Nassau. And it's got 6, 2, 2. So 6 primary, 2 tertiary, 2 secondary rather, and 2 tertiary. Torpedoes and the name of the ship, and again the nice overhead ship diagram. These are very nice. As far as the quality of the counters, they're not super thick, but they punch out pretty easy. They're flexing really nice in here, and at least in terms of what I've experienced with the Second World War at Sea, they punch out pretty easy and pretty nice without a lot of without a lot of problems. Let's just put it that way. So then we've got like some carriers here on counter sheet number 4. Here we do have some Russian ships. So I don't know that there are any Russian scenarios necessarily in this. I would have to look, and we'll find out a little bit when we look at these other expansions here. But you've got French ships, you've got Australian ships, you've got Danish, and you've got Americans down here as well. And Dutch. So there's a lot of different, and Swedish ships as well. And then counter sheet 5 would just be some of the smaller ships. So again, we've got some German ships here. And we have airships. So this is kind of cool. We've got some Zeppelins here, because that was a thing as well, obviously, for the Germans in the First World War. Then you've got smaller ships from some of the other nations as well, and then some markers here at the bottom. So these, again, are your fleet markers, and if you look at the back, they have numbers on them. And again, you'd put the number side up on the various, on the operational map to denote where that fleet is. And then within there, so you see the brownish colored ones are Central Power fleets, and the blue ones are Allied fleets. And you keep track of your ship's statuses on those data sheets, or hit sheet as it's called here. Now here are the rules with some charts and things tucked inside. So these are your Second Great War, or not Second Great War, Great War at Sea, second edition series rules, all laid out here in terms of what it is. Now again, these rules are not overly complicated. They are fairly long and comprehensive at 39 pages. It's not terribly long, but they're not. Again, this isn't a simple game, but it is certainly not a complicated game. And you go through here, and if you've played Second World War at Sea, as I have, it's got a lot of similarities, of course. Obviously, as some of the more advanced naval air stuff comes out because they didn't have the type of aircraft carriers, obviously, in the First World War that they did in the Second World War. And you have how do you get contact and moving your fleets and so on. Torpedoes, gunnery combat, all kinds of stuff in here. Damaged ships, plunging fire damage, penetrating the hull and things of that nature, substituting damage, excess damage, torpedo mounts, emergency repairs, special rules for ports and leaders and land. Here's air operations in the advanced rules. Aircraft pieces represent aircraft capable of attacking enemy aircraft fleets, airships, and land bases. Each piece represents a group of 10 to 12 aircraft. And just as is the case in the Second World War at Sea, you have a landing type. This would be a land-based aircraft. It's got an air-to-air rating. It's got the type of aircraft. This is a snipe. It's a Canadian aircraft. It's got a range of 8. No torpedoes, no bombs. So it's basically a fighter or a scout, as they may have called it back then. Then you have air search, all kinds of stuff. This is all air rules. So you have air-to-air, air strikes, airships. So here's our Zeppelins. This is an American airship. The Tillman, it's got an air-to-air factor, a protection rating, and it can drop bombs. So this is kind of cool. I'm looking forward to playing around, and we have submarine rules as well. I'm looking forward to playing around with airships, I'm not going to lie. Here's our log sheet. So you have your task forces and their missions, and basically you track what they do. You also have weather, of course, and submarines, etc. Then we have our charts. So this is the air table. You roll for taking off and landing successfully. Air searches, cap interception of strike, just as you would have in a more modern game. You have your cap. Air-to-air combat, airstrike training. On the back, we have the rest of the air table rules. Then we have sea other tables. Let's do sea damage tables here. So you have a gunnery damage, torpedo damage, critical damage, minefield damage. On the other side is other tables 3. So minefields, minesweeping, merchant shipping. You can see there's a lot of tables. Submarine flotillas, attacker location, fleet contact, pursuit, initiative, sighting ranges, emergency repairs, gunnery and ship launch torpedoes, foundering, grounding, coastal contact, all kinds of stuff. Damage to carriers, and then shore bombardment, airship, anti-surface warfare, ground amphibious unloading, ground combat. So pretty much everything you might expect. Here's our tactical map. And this is just the back cover, which talks about the other 2 games that I have here to show in a moment. But this is our tactical map. You've probably seen this before if you watched any of my videos from the Second World War at Sea. And you won't see the whole thing here, but it's pretty simple. It's very generic, so it's just extremely generic. And basically you'll put your ship counters out on here and you'll maneuver and fight on this map. So this is the tactical map. When 2 forces get into contact range and they're going to fight, this is the map you'll use to kind of play that out. So again, nothing fancy on here. And now we'll bring in North Sea 1914. So these are basically just additional scenarios. And as we open it up, so this is a scenario and analysis book for Jutland 2nd edition. It has 43 new scenarios for that game, 16 operational and 27 battle. You'll need copies of Jutland 2nd edition and Cruiser Warfare to play and enjoy all of them. I have Cruiser Warfare pre-ordered, has not come yet. So I won't be able to play everything in here apparently until I get that as well. But I have plenty to keep me occupied until then. Here's more special rules, right? Oh, bad coal, etc. So the North Sea, August of 1914, which obviously was the very beginning of the war. So this, I believe, is talking about moving the British expeditionary force from Britain to France. And this is a French cruiser that protected the BEF on its crossing. Mine layers. So you have an operational scenario, the first sweep. When Britain declared war on Germany, First Lord of the Admiralty, Winston Churchill, ignored the monumental stupidity of changing commanders on the very first day of conflict. He ordered Sir John Jellicoe, just arrived at Scapa Flow, to assume the post of Grand Fleet second in command, to take command of the fleet and take it to sea. Without time to name his own staff or even discuss plans with his predecessor, Jellicoe boarded the flagship Iron Duke and took his dreadnoughts into the North Sea in search of German raiders, supposedly breaking out into the Atlantic, and invaders landing on the Shetland Islands. So you can see time frame is 48 turns. We got clear weather. Starting turn is Allied player's choice, and then you have, here are German forces, here are British forces. Then you have a battle scenario. Typically, the battle scenarios usually build off whatever the operational scenario is. And so this one would be the Shetlands, it looks like. And then you have another two more battle scenarios, 2 and 3. Then we have operational scenario 2, off to bash the Belgians. A couple more battle scenarios. Operational scenario 3, by imperial order. And this one is looks like a German-based one. The Kaiser had given a direct order to the commander of the German Mediterranean Squadron, Rear Admiral Wilhelm Souchon, to either return to Germany or to attack French troop convoys in the Western Mediterranean in the event of war. Navy Secretary Alfred von Tirpitz and Admiralty Chief of Staff Hugo von Pohl secretly ordered the squadron to steam for Constantinople. Had Souchon obeyed the Kaiser instead, he would have brought his 2-ship squadron into the English Channel, just as the British tried to move the BEF across to France. So this is kind of a what if. So you have you have the Goeben here and Magdeburg with their leader, Souchon. And then some supporting ships, I guess. You've got the Seydlitz with leader Hipper. And then you have the Anglo-French forces, which I'm assuming may include possibly some transports, maybe. I don't see any. Then you'll have another battle one, and then second sweep. So basically a lot of things in the early days of the war. So, I mean, we're at battle scenario 17 here, which is in September. So a lot of things right at the beginning of the war. Storm of Sea, Yarmouth raid. So basically things that happened in 1914 or may have happened in 1914. Doge Bank, 1915, as you might guess, deals with the titular battle as well as other things that happened in 1915, I'm sure. And so, yeah, Dogger Bank 1915 is the second in the sequence, a sequel to North Sea 1914 that takes the story deeper into the war, with 30 scenarios ranging from late 1914 to March 1915. The numerical sequence picks up from the end of North Sea 1914. And for this one, you need Jutland 2nd Edition, Cruiser Warfare, and North Sea 1914 to play and enjoy all of the scenarios. That's interesting. I wonder why you need probably there is at the very back of this book. We have some French ships, like the data sheet for them. I think that's it. So maybe that's why you would need that one for this. More seaplane carriers. And so this one, we pick things up. If we go right to the beginning, Fortress Helgoland. We've got September 1914 in operational scenario 17. So as it did say, it picks up based on where North Sea 1914 left off. starting with Battle Scenario 28. This one does, I don't know if I said this, it has, does it say? Yeah, 30 scenarios. Okay. So yeah, Doge Bank. I go to the back here. Let's just see, does it have more ship data sheets or anything in the back? No. But we've got Battle Scenario 46 and the Operational Scenario Ides of March, which is number 29. So that's another one. Let me put this with that. And then we have this guy, Iron Dog. So this is the Golden Journal, which you kind of have to be in the Gold Club, which I am currently, to get this, I believe. And what this gives you is something a little different, kind of a special thing. So this is actually the 20th one of the Golden Journal. This, I think, is only the second one I've got, though. So this gives you 12 huge and beautiful pieces for Great War at Sea, Jutland, showing British and German battle cruisers that fought at the Battle of Doge Bank, plus a couple of that could have but didn't, plus we have their stories. So here are the German ships, and it talks about them. Gives you a little history on each one, which is kind of neat. One thing about Avalanche Press and the games that Mike Benninghoff does, they are all chock full of history, or in some cases, alternate history, which, you know, personally, I enjoy that stuff, so I think it's kind of cool. But there, you know, good detail on all the ships here. You know, here's a whole thing about the Seydlitz. Here are our counters. So we have the Indomitable, the New Zealand, the Lion, the Princess Royal, the Queen Mary, and the Tiger for the British. And we have the Von der Tann, Moltke, Gerben, Seydlitz, Derflinger, and Blücher for the Germans. And these are, they call them silky smooth. I mean, I get their newsletter. So if you get the Avalanche newsletter, they always refer to their pieces as silky smooth. They are actually very smooth. And then we've got here the Splendid Cats, the Iron Dog, HMS Tiger. So there you go. So this is what the Iron Dog's Golden Journal looks, and see how it's like falling out of the frame here in my hand. So that is that. That will wrap this up. This was actually much longer than I thought it would end up being, but I wanted to give kind of a good look at all of the components here for this this game from Avalanche Press with its expansion. So we do have these two and that, as well as our base game, Jutland. So we have the whole family here. So that will do it for now. I will play this game in the not too distant future. Perhaps I'll do just like a naval month or something, because I have a bunch of naval themed games that I would like to play. As always, I have much bigger goals than what I end up achieving. You know, I do have time limitations just like everybody else. But yeah, I am definitely going to try to get this out here. I've been wanting to play the Great War at Sea. I have never played it before. I have played Second World War at Sea. So I did want to try this, which is much more focused on the ships themselves, because there wasn't a lot of there was aircraft, or were aircraft around, but they didn't have as much of an impact on this war as they did in the Second World War. So I went for the whole Jutland package. I forget what they call it, but you got a discount by buying all of this stuff together. I am still waiting on my Cruiser Warfare to kind of complete the picture for this group here, but that is going to do it. As I said, I'm done. I'm going to stop babbling now. So as always, if you would, I would greatly appreciate a share, a like, or a subscription. If you're already a subscriber, or if you do share or like, I definitely appreciate it. And I always want to offer my thanks to those who support my channel. But for now, that is it. I am Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.